Hey guys, I'm Chris,
And Mike.
and welcome to this week's No Limits, the Scot Harvath podcast. What's new today, Mike?
Not much. We're getting a late night pod in because we had to go back and record after we recorded the last Patriot and said we'll talk about the Dead Fall cover. Well, less than 24 hours later after that, we got the Dead Fall cover. So we just released that episode. You probably already heard it. And now we're back here for the last Patriot part 2.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy the second part of this conversation, even though we already, I can say that because we already recorded it. It was a really good conversation. One thing we forgot to highlight, and another thing I wanted to read, but we were just so into the conversation I didn't read it. But go check out the synopsis for this book, the little book jacket. I'll just read the last line from it. What Jason Bourne was to the Cold War, Scot Harvath is to the War on Terror.
Bang.
That is a bold statement right there, my friend.
Damn.
Yeah, this thing has a 4.2 on Goodreads, not bad, and 4.6 on Amazon. You know, got pretty good ratings from both. So you'll find out at the end of this pod what we rate this book.
Right.
I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't argue with those numbers.
Yeah, the Amazon one a little higher, but yeah, we said our piece on this episode. I think you'll enjoy it. Oh, but Chris, there was something you missed in the synopsis. So that was a good line about Jason Bourne, but you got to hear this one. And it goes, quote, "There once was a man in Monticello." Oh, no, wait a minute. That's just my writing.
That's your limerick. That's your limerick. You forgot your
okay.
limerick, Mike, not the synopsis. Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. I thought one of my limericks might have got published. I must have mixed up the notes here. There once was a man in Monticello, his name T.J., quite the fellow. An ancient manuscript, Scot and Nicholas must decrypt, a secret the Islamists want to quello.
Ooh, quello. That's clever.
Not much rhymed with Monticello, so I had to go with he's a jolly good fellow and quello.
Hey, whatever makes it work, man. That's a good one. All right, guys, we hope you enjoy the second part, The Last Patriot. One thing of the plot that we did not bring up that I wanted to get your comments on is the President Scot and the President.
The President.
So
yes.
We didn't talk about that yet.
Yes, especially coming off the last book where I said one of the big questions for me is, one, how do they make up? Do I buy it if there is an apology and they do make amends? I couldn't picture a way Scot comes back into the good graces of the president. So, yeah, I'm wondering if you're satisfied. I'll just say I was pretty satisfied. And I think the reason was that Tracy was the linchpin.
Right.
I was a little confused at, Tracy had these headaches and I get it. And then I understood Nichols' argument of Tracy left because she didn't want to put you in a position of taking care of her versus completing the mission. Because Tracy knew that would hurt Scot. It would distract Scot and he'd make that choice to save her. And she wanted to let him loose. But that meant she got taken by the French authorities. So, because it was something that big and you could tell the urgency in Scott's voice wanting her to get taken care of. He even tells Lawler at one point on the phone, "What hospital is she at? I'm going there." And Lawler's like, "You can't go there. She's under so much surveillance after a bomb went off and she was at the scene of the crime, a shootout that killed two police officers and she was at the scene of the crime. There's no way you're going to get near the hospital." And then Lawler's like, in his mind, actually, that's probably wrong. He knew damn well Scot would be able to get into that hospital and see Tracy. So the urgency that Scot had to want Tracy taken care of and the president being the best possible asset to provide that and put pressure on the French through diplomacy and other avenues, I thought was a good reason Scot had to play ball and to do it over a game of billiards, which another thing we learned that Scot is very good at. And
Scott's good at everything, man.
Eventually the president just drops a straightforward apology. I put you in a bad place. I had to make a call, and the decisions I made put you and your family and loved ones in danger, and I was the reason that you were handcuffed and couldn't save them. And I thought all of that culminated very well to that handshake, formal apology. And then as professionals, they both said, we're moving on from this. And I bought it. Were you satisfied with it?
Yeah, no, and because it was we mentioned it. It was the elephant in the room in the last book in
Yes.
terms of we didn't buy that this president would do this to Scott, and
Right.
it just felt so out of character. And like you said, it had to be addressed in some way.
Yep.
And I was just waiting for it. And because we know that the president is on its way out. This is the last book we're going to have with this president. So, because also Scott's got to be brought. The last book ended, and this book takes off with Scott formally renouncing his job with the OIA and Gary Lawler, and wanting to be a part of the Apex project and whatnot. So it's something that had to be addressed, and I think that Brad did a good job of bringing the two back together, sort of like commenting on, giving a little bit more reasoning for why the president did what he did, while acknowledging that he had to apologize to Scott, and then bringing them back together. And yeah, I think like by putting Tracy as this linchpin to bring about the apology and bring about like how Scott and Rutledge have to work together now.
Yep.
Worked for me
I agree.
very well.
Yep.
In the scene, with the billiards, Scott takes a Diet Coke. He's carrying a gun, so rightfully can't be drinking.
Yep. That was good.
So I really dug that scene, and I'm glad that I remembered to bring it up with you.
All right, I'll agree with you. All right, two big ones I want to get into. Don't know your take on this based on how we're talking. Good guys, bad guys. You tell me. Did you buy into the cast of characters of Matthew Dodd, this disgruntled CIA officer who loses his wife and child in this car accident to a drunk teenager, and this girl gets off scot-free because whoever her parents were, and he's lost his entire family, and so he's looking for purpose and meaning in life, and he finds that in Islam, how it's so assured of its dogma, it's a way of life, it's a way of viewing the world, and to be honest, he sees it as a path for peace. While he is an assassin, he does ultimately believe America succumbing to Islamist principles are a good thing and the path forward, because his moral compass was so lost that this oriented him. It gave him a foundation that he believed was true, a foundation that would lead to eternal rest, and it brought him comfort. But do you agree with how he was in bed with the extremists? I think, what was his name? Mullah Omar or Sheikh Omar, who runs this mosque and this organization, FAIR. And this was interesting, speaking bad guys. The whatever they called it in the book, but it essentially was the analog for CARE, which is the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is a real organization which sues people and fights Islamophobia, and basically,
it was the Foundation for American Islamic Relations.
Foundation in the book, but in real world it's called the Council on that's a real thing. Do you believe that groups like that have been infiltrated by these extremists and Islamists who actually do want to impose Sharia law? And someone like a Matthew Dodd, a fallen away CIA case officer, and actually a Special Activities Division Black Ops kind of guy, could be bedfellows together? What did you think about the cast of villains?
So Dodd is an interesting case to me because I both liked him, but also thought that his character was a little bit underdeveloped in terms of, the storyline with his wife was almost like it was brought up, but not really delved that deep into his like emotional, like, I guess you're supposed to read more into it, but this is not a movie, it's a novel. So like, say it to me, let it breathe a little bit. Like I wanted a little bit more of his understanding of like how he turned to these people.
Yes.
Because in the end, he makes what I believe is the right call to do, right? In terms of turning his back and, essentially leaving it in Salam's hand what to do with this revelation, with this, whatever information he gleans from, what Thomas Jefferson, as well as that, what is the guy from Afghanistan?
Oh, El Jazari. Yeah, the scholar.
Yeah, the scholar. Yeah. So, leaving it in his hands what to do with this information. I wondered a little bit more about like why he became this assassin, or obviously he was a CIA in the CIA before it, why he turned on America. I wanted a little bit
Yes.
more on that. And then, you know, I think putting this, you know, the Salam character as this what was the name of the operation that they were running? Where Fair
Glass Canyon.
Glass Canyon, where Fair actually, because he thought he was working for the FBI,
but he was a plant.
But in
for
actuality, he was a plant for Fair to suss out people that are going to turn on Fair.
Yes,
you know?
Yes.
Like that was an interesting little wrinkle. Like you know, and I'm sure like institutions like this, you know, do that kind of stuff. Essentially,
opposition research.
Have a spy within yourself, but you're spying on yourself to see who's going to spy on you or who's going to leak on you. Like that was a cool, you know, intricacy, like, you know, plot detail that was put in there. So and then, you know, the Sheikh and the who's different than the Imam and who's different than the leader of Fair, you know, they were like, there was very little depth put into them. So I can't go too high on the villains. I don't know. What did you think, Mike?
I 100% agree with your read on a lot of that. I could see it being real. I could see the characters' motivations being what
they're
they are.
Very real villains. Like I won't. They're not fake villains. Like I think all these people are. But I wanted a little bit more, not of Dodd's backstory, but just of like explaining his motivations and like how, like where he went from. Like we get this little line about like how he's presumed dead because he accidentally killed himself by like giving the wrong coordinates for a drone strike,
right,
on a mission.
Yeah,
and I want to know, like, what did he do? Like, why did he? I guess you're supposed to read into that he was trying to, you know, fake his own death.
That was when he was. That was his plan when he was amid converting and he was about to go to the other side. He had to fake his death.
Right.
Yep. And there were no remains ever found of him. Yep.
A little more backstory of like that. What caused him to convert?
Well,
what caused him to? Well, obviously the catalyst is the death of his wife and child, and the fact that like our system is set up to like not punish people who have privilege, right? But that path, the path that he took to get there.
Yeah, I think it's all there. I think you have to find it and you have to dig for it. It's there, so maybe bring it to the surface a bit more. I'll agree with you on. I think there's a telling conversation towards the end that's also a bit more of what you and I are thirsting for. And that's when he realizes the difference between himself and the two others in the room that are in this plot. And he really sees that they just want to do this for power and control. And to them, it's almost lost all of its ideas of morality. And, you know, they're just so into control and winning and taking over and converting everyone. And I think he realizes that's not why he got into the game. He got into the game really believing this could be what's best for America. So where you said he turned on America, I would like to see him struggling with him actually believing he didn't turn. He's actually doing what he thinks is best. And I think that makes him compelling, but it didn't come out to the surface enough. And there is that small conversation at the end in his head where he is thinking that. And that is why I think ultimately in the epilogue, he sends the text to Salam and says, you know, I trust you to do what you need to do with this. And I read into that ending that Dodd has come around. And he said, this lost revelation, which I killed people to hide because I thought it would upset the apple cart of what I believe is true, which is Islam. If it gets out.
Do you even think, sorry to cut you off. I was thinking, do you even think up until that point, he didn't even think that it was real? He was just chasing this thing that was, you know,
it's a phantom.
It's a myth. But like once he saw, because he's there in Poplar Forest.
Yep.
And he sees them turn the wheel and it start to right. I'm almost like, I was almost thinking that as he sees that, oh wait, this is what I've been trying to hide.
Yep.
I didn't actually believe. I just was, you know, trying to get rid of the people who were like sort of causing a stir. But now that I see that, wait, what they were searching for is a real thing, even though it's not really a real thing, but like in the story, it's a real thing. Then he's like, oh, well, we need to know what that is.
Yeah.
And people need, or I can't be the one to decide that because of what I chosen to do in the past, but Salam is a better person and he can decide for that.
That's 100% the read I had. I would have liked to be inside his head a little bit more as he goes on that transformation.
When he sees it.
Right.
If we had gotten his
Right.
perspective
Right.
as he's seeing that little clock turn, and thinking, like that would have been cool to be in his mind there.
But there were two other subtle hints, which is that he leaves Gary alive because he tries to tell
Right.
Omar, you won't understand, but I'm not killing someone over this who isn't truly an infidel just because they had a different belief. Like, I'm not killing for the same purposes you're killing. And then he actually lets the two hostages go back, in Poplar
Right.
Forest. He doesn't kill the man
Right.
and the woman. So we're already seeing, one, that he's a bit different than the other extremists. And two, he is coming around. He is cracking. And then seeing that text revealed, the final text of Muhammad, which did preach peace. I really like that. I wish it was elaborated upon more. So you're right, but it works and it's there and it's subtle. And then it does come to a head, actually. Speaking of the epilogue and the ending, it does come to a head when he's drunk on the island. When I think Scott has something, it's the drinking Olympics, where he's just getting absolutely fucking toasted on this tropical island. That, to me, as the reader, we're meant to read into that and infer his worldview has shattered. He cracked. And he cracked for, I think, a good reason, right? These previously held beliefs and notions and misconceptions that he adopted when he was in grief, he is now kind of free from, but he didn't know how to handle that and turned to the bottle. And ultimately his way of handling it was, I'm going to die. I'm dejected. And the way George Goodell reads that line, when Scott or Ramadan, this other guy's like, where is the codex? Or where is the cipher? Where's the clock? He's like, it's gone. All of it. It's gone. Like, it's over. You can hear this dejection in his voice. He knew he was done. He knew he lost the game, but he secretly did something from the grave, which was appoint Salam to be the one to decide if this gets told to the world or not. He knew he was broken. He knew he was done. So it's subtle, but I believe the transformation is there. So I wasn't planning to do this. I think I'm going to go to 3.5 on the bad guys. I was going to go as low as a 3. All that stuff about Dodd, I would go to a 4, but I didn't like any of the other bad guys.
Yeah, and I think I was going to go to a 4 too in your sort of description, but then I remembered Ramadan and he bumps it back down because he's supposed to be this bad guy that I didn't like. So 3.5. Yeah,
that one random guy. I'm like, let's drop a point here. No, 3.5. I think Dodd, to me, as we spoke, just became a way better villain than I was giving him credit for in my mind.
Yeah. If he was the only villain, and we
lone wolf
never
character.
Really met.
Yeah.
We never really met. Like he had like these shadowy figures that were like sort of guiding him, but we didn't really interact with them that much. We didn't really interact with them that much, but like we got a little bit of context to them. If we had less of that, I feel like he would have been elevated more. He would have been a more interesting.
He would have been a much better villain on his own. Yep, I agree with you.
All right, what about the good guys, Mike?
All right, I'm going to keep this one kind of snappy. I really liked it. I mean,
we've been going long on a lot of things today.
a lot of monologues here about stuff. Well, this is a book that demands that. I think this is
it does
a thinker's book. Yeah, you need to dialogue about this book, or I think a lot of things can get lost or misconstrued.
This is probably one of the first books where we actually had, we were able to fill content and talk about all the books in this manner. But this one almost like there was no struggle to find things to talk about.
Right.
Like, not that I say I struggle sometimes, but just like, some of the other things we nitpick, it's just like, it's a book about a guy killing terrorists, like that's what it is. But this one almost demands you to
it's a
think
conversation.
We've never exactly. We rarely have in this genre, things that like pique the interest and elicit dialogue after reading it. So
right, this is one of them for sure.
So, all right. Anyways, we were going to keep it snappy on the good guys, and I held you up. Sorry.
Yeah, kind of liked Osbeck and Rasmussen and his team at the CIA. Thought what they were doing kind of cool. Carolyn Leonard, definitely loved that she's brought back in. One of my favorite Secret Service agents in this story. Kind of like those kind of side good guys were okay. They were good. But who was great to me was Nichols. Really enjoyed
Yeah.
the
No, he was
professor.
cool.
Yeah, really enjoyed the history professor as a sidekick for Scott. Same way VJ in Rising Tiger was a sidekick that elevated Scott. I think Nichols is doing the same thing here. And in the background, this idea of Salam and Marwan Khalifa and Noor, we didn't spend a lot of time with them, but I think what they represented was really cool. I think each one of those, I hate to say this, but what Brad would have earlier said as the good Muslims, or the ones who I think represent the truth of things or the everyday life of things in the culture. I'm really glad that they were on page and they were characters, even if just in the background. I love Marwan, like this grandfather kind of figure. Noor and Salam, the younger generation. Steve Nichols coming at it from an academic historian perspective. I really love that there was a cast of the good guys on the opposite side of the debate from what Dodd and the Sheikh represented.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree with you on the Nichols aspect of it. I think he's probably the best character besides Scott in this novel. The Iden Aspect was an interesting character, and again, he wasn't given too much of a backstory, and it was almost like he served this purpose to have, to sort of piece together certain things, the attack, because it was almost like you were reading and you're like, come on, just put together the pieces and figure out that this bombing in Paris that Scott was at, like, is involved with your, attack at the, Thomas Jefferson. Like, we could put the pieces together way quicker than Osbeck could, right?
Yeah.
That, these were somehow related. And I do think, like, he had some of the cooler action pieces, like, even like, it wasn't cool that he let Scott, essentially put Scott out for bait, right? Like,
at Tripoli,
in Annapolis, at the Tripoli Monument, yeah. And this guy, like, one guy running in, and he's just a courier, and then the other guy coming in and tackling him, and Scott's like, who the hell is this guy? Also some weak, like, CIA spy stuff from Osbeck that I was like, great. Come on, dude. Not like great. The whole reason that his one agent gets killed is because he parks his car, like, right in front of the house, like, and doesn't realize that it was raining, so the guy's going to see that, like, you just rolled up. Yeah. Like, and then also he's the one who gets his car bugged, right? That's how he's able to
exactly gets tracked
to follow him.
Yeah, it's kind of weak.
Yeah, so, like, there was just he wasn't, like, super interesting, but he had some cool things.
Hold up. I was gonna give a 3.5 to the good guys. You know why I'm bumping it to a 4?
Why?
Musa, bro, the cab driver.
The cab driver was pretty cool.
Dude, Musa was a G.
He saved Scott's life.
He waits outside the mosque, and he says he's going to wait for Scott, but he might be at the cafe across the street if it takes a long time. Scott goes to the cafe. There's a big shootout. He's chased by Dodd. And all of a sudden, as Scott's about to get beat in the street by Dodd, Musa comes out of nowhere with the cab and runs the guy over. I just love the loyalty of this guy just because a cab driver and you had a good vibe for a ride. And now all of a sudden, you're so hospitable. You'll wait for him. You'll protect him. And then he even just drives him back as if nothing happened. It's like, oh, I just love that character. I think these periphery characters that show the mainstream side of Islam, not the extremists or the zealots or the Islamists, but the just everyday, I'm a character living in Vichy-sous-Bois, this, rundown neighborhood of Paris. Or even there's a father and a son in the mosque chase. They're, like, hiding out in a door, and Scott kicks in the door. He's like, come with me. It's like, do you guys know where the exit is? I love the portrayal of just everyday people being who they are, doing what they do, even Noor and Salam and Marwan. Anyway, I'm going up to 4 on good guys. I think that's more than just the good guys we've come to love. Lawler, the president, Tracy, Scott. It's more these periphery characters that flesh out the Islamic world that I don't think Brad would have showed that side of everyday people in some other writings.
Yeah, so I'm also giving it 4. That's mainly bolstered by Nicholas, the professor,
Yes.
but it's also bolstered by someone who I'm actually going to save to talk about until my free space, because he's gonna get my free space.
Ooh.
So I don't want to bring him up now, but
I'm intrigued.
it's sort of both a good guy. We haven't talked about him yet. We've talked about the scene, not haven't talked about him yet, but I'll save it till we get to the free space.
Oh, I'm intrigued. I might have an idea, but very interesting. All right, setting. Tell me, we talked a bit about the globetrotting earlier. We don't have to rehash it all, but what would you rank the setting of this novel?
I'm going to give it a solid 4. I think I'm more bought on the setting than you are in terms of the descriptions. And again, I think it was the descriptions woven in with the history lessons that I bought in. Again, like I said, I bought in on the National Treasure Da Vinci Code aspect of this novel really early on, and I think that was seen and evident throughout the setting and how it was described. I'm a sucker for Paris, so anytime we go to Paris, and again, listening to George and being in Paris, it gave me various. How many times? I feel like, did we go to Paris multiple times with Mitch? I think a couple times at least.
Probably, yeah.
So I texted you. I was like, "What's going on with how'd you feel about this novel?" And the second question I texted you was, "When the hell are we getting Armin Schultz?" Because we had Armin Schultz for the first novel, and then we listened to these books on Scribe, and you can listen to either the abridged version or the unabridged version. And obviously, we're unabridged people. We're not giving you the abridged version on this.
Unfortunately,
on this pod.
Scot Harvath books are the ones where I think I might kind of be okay with abridged.
Really?
I know I said absolutely not, never with Mitch Rapp and Vince Flynn, ever, 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 never with a Jack Carr or anybody. Something about Brad's style, I think just it could really work in a 4-hour condensed abridged version. This might be heresy right here. I might be an apostate, but I think if any thriller was going to get cut down, I think a Brad Thor can work in a shorter format where you leave out some of the extemporaneous details, but I digress.
Anyways, but the reason I bring up the abridged is because while George does the unabridged, Armand's been doing all of the abridged.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So this is the last one where George reads the main one, the unabridged. And so the next one we start the kick with Armand Schultz. And I'm pretty sure he goes, unless there's like one book where he couldn't do it, but we're going to have Armand for the rest. And so,
didn't know that.
Just listening to George and being in Paris, it gave me Vince Flynn vibes, and I was just reminiscing about doing the Vince Flynn pod with you or the Mitch Rapp pod with you. So I got to give it a 4, man. I can't go lower than a 4.
I think you brought me up a little bit. Yeah, I thought a little bit too many of the settings were flybys. Especially at the end. Maybe I'm leaning a little too much on that bitter taste that it left me at the end when we're randomly in the Virgin Islands for God knows why, no reason.
Yeah, I think don't think about it. Like, just because think about the consent to kill ending. Like we were randomly on this beach.
Yeah. All right, so Paris, you're right. That would be a 5 out of 5. A lot of the Virginia stuff, Monticello, Poplar Forest, a lot of the details were given, maybe a little too much. That would be a 4.5, 5. The other cities we went to, I don't think I can count them, like Baltimore or these other random places that we just popped in for half a scene. Rome, in the open. Yeah, but although that was cool.
No, he did get a decent description of the library in Rome.
Yeah, that was.
And we go to Annapolis. We go to the Naval Academy. Baltimore. He could depict anywhere in the. He could have picked Columbia that his apartment was at, and he wouldn't have to give a description of that. It's just a random suburban place. So.
All right, you got me. I'm going for. You got me.
All right.
You got me.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Let's knock our free spaces out of the way. That way we can end with a little cover chat. What do you say?
Oh yeah, because there's one cover that what the hell is going on here? But, all right,
dude. Yeah, there's one I put there. Oh yeah, well. We got to talk about that. So let's do the free space before we go on yet another tangent for this podcast when we talk covers. I'm intrigued though. What's your free space? Who is it? Rasmussen? Who?
No. How can I leave him my 5?
I have no
out of
idea because
5?
he got shot in the shoulder and that was that and went to a hospital. Like I'm trying to figure out who did we
No.
not talk
So
about?
what do all of these,
Finney and Parker?
No. Oh yeah, that's another win
Wait,
for the
wait,
good
wait.
guys because I like seeing them.
It's got to be Bullet. It's got to be Bullet.
No, it's not Bullet.
Oh, damn it.
What is National Treasure, Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, the other one, that was a bad movie with Dan Brown, even the Raiders of the Lost Ark, what do they all have in common that, like, you need this linchpin character to solve a mystery?
Nicolas Cage.
No. You have to have a docent that, like, has been working at a place for years and and knows, is an expert. But he's not the professor. He's like an everyday guy, but just because he works there and like the dude, and Brad even describes him as this, like heavyweight. I'm imagining like some like Santa Claus looking guy,
absolutely
wearing suspenders,
absolutely.
Even says like he makes this sucking like sound with his tongue, like yeah, I know about that, like this guy like doesn't seem educated, but he's like freaking brilliant, and he's probably just as much as a Thomas Jefferson scholar as Nichols is, by being around it.
Dude,
I love that dude. And he's in like every novel. Like I think of like there's one of the docents in not the Lost Symbol, but the one where they're in it was, why can't I think of this? Anyways, it's a Dan Brown novel, but there's one where they're in Milan, the Inferno. Yeah. We're all about Dante, and this guy like
yep.
he's a random Italian.
You gotta have the guy.
He works at the museum. You gotta have the docent at the museum that knows something. So yeah, he's my free space.
Dude, that one came out of left field. I didn't see it coming, but you are absolutely right. Even the woman, the woman, the administrator.
Yeah, no, and you can include her in the guy at Poplar Forest.
It's like, we open in 5 minutes, but I'll let you climb this ladder and take apart a clock from 300 years ago. That's very important to our museum. Like, okay. Thanks,
she's
lady.
Like, be careful.
Let's just be honest. She's not very good at her job. Like, if that's happening.
And then the one thing was crazy. Like all right, I said you could take off the mantelpiece, but I didn't say anything about like dismantling the like the brickwork, like hammering in there.
That's literally like Nicolas Cage walking up in the archives and going, "Excuse me, I need to look at the back of the Constitution." They go, "Okay, right this way, sir," and then they take it out of the case and just hand it to him.
All right, I said you could look at it's the independent. What is it? It's the Declaration of Independence. I said you could look at the back of it. I didn't say you could put lemon juice on it, right? to and put it in an oven,
Oh, that's mad funny. That's good. I mean, this was not going to be my free space, but dude, when Bullet comes out at the end on the epilogue out of the boat, the SS Harvath.
Oh, yeah.
That was so awesome. I absolutely love seeing Bullet and light out because Tracy is, not feeling well, and she's like, "I'll go anywhere," and then Bullet's there. Oh, it was so sweet. Really enjoyed that.
Does Tracy die?
Dude, I don't remember.
She has to. At this point, she has to, right?
That's what I was saying earlier of this like transition away from the Lawler, Tracy, Sargasso group kind of context and into the next phase, which is the Troll, Reed Carlton, and everything else that comes up. I don't remember how we get there. I really don't remember the next few books of how we fade out of one and into the other. Because is Lawler still around? I forget. Does he have a big moment?
He was just in Rising Tiger. He had come back, right? He wasn't in a couple, but then he came back in Rising Tiger, right?
Oh, okay. But he's got what phases him out for a little while, I'm like, and the whole OIAA, and when he transitions to a different role and doesn't do this, like Scott doesn't do this anymore. I don't remember how it all happened. So Tracy's got to die. And what's crazy is like the current Scott with Sonia and his other relationships. I'm like, what happened that we move on from Tracy so easily, if you will? Or is it just memory fades? Like that's how the human brain works of like, you do move on. And I don't know. I don't remember what happens with her.
Yeah, I don't know, because also I remember when Laura dies, that being so impactful.
Oh, it's huge.
That
was that backlash?
I would have felt cheap. I would have felt that was cheap. Yeah, if it had also happened before to Scott. So maybe she doesn't die. Maybe she just like has to move on from him because of her, typical like they have to go apart because pick Anna, like not Anna, but Meg or Claudia,
Right.
like one of those.
They do it amicably. Yeah. You're
but
right.
at the end of this novel, they're like this, So
Laura's hit
it's going to
so
be
hard.
something, especially because he has that connection to Laura's son and Laura's family. So it's definitely it's on book watch for sure.
Yeah, the way he's talking about Tracy right now is actually shocking to me. How she's everything to him.
Yes.
It's
I didn't
shocking
remember that.
because I remember
that.
when Laura gets lost, it's so like it shatters his universe. I'm like, wait, I didn't know that happened to him just years prior, right? Presumably. Because Rutledge is in office, so it's like it's not all that long ago. You just lost who you professed as the love of your life already. So you're right. Yeah. Yeah, that's on watch. Yeah.
All right, so what's your free space?
Oh, free space. I didn't even get there. Loved all these things, but I'm going to give my free space to 3 very quick, quippy quotes that absolutely crushed. I didn't have a lot of quotes to pull out. I did earlier in the conversation, but I haven't recently. But these 3 take the cake, man. Might be some of Brad's best one-liners. And he's got the zingers. Brad Thor, he's got zingers. And these 3 take the cake. I'm going to go in order from my third, second to first favorite. Third is when he's going to the White House and looking at the Secret Service agents, he says, "Be polite to everyone you meet, but have a plan on how to kill them."
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like it. I like it. And I said that was a habit Harvath still employed to this day. Second one, we talked about Matthew Dodd. Love this guy. Matthew Dodd's balls weren't simply big. They were enormous. Some of the things Dodd pulls, he goes out on a limb there, and he's got the iron balls. But we're just talking Tracy. And, dude, my winner is this quote, this very short quote. "Harvath didn't get PTSD. He gave it." Dude.
That was going to be my, it's still going to be my my going out quote.
Oh, that's your closing? Okay. Well, here's the full thing. In response to thinking about Tracy, he says, "A couple of friends suggested that maybe he was suffering from PTSD. But in the world of an army colonel he once cross-trained with, Harvath didn't get PTSD. He gave it." Dude.
That's badass.
That's a crazy line, man. You can't write that shit today, though.
No, you can't. You can't.
Yeah,
you definitely can't.
It doesn't hold up in the test of time, but when it was written and when you read it, it's like, oh, fuck yeah. All right, we've got some rather bizarre things to get into here with the covers, dude. I've been waiting for this one.
Oh my god. All right, so let's break this up into 2 parts.
Let's back up. Let's back up.
All right, let's talk about the good covers.
Yes.
Or like the real covers. And then let's talk about the ridiculous covers.
Yeah, let's be real here for a minute. Cover F is friggin' awesome.
Yeah. A, B, and F, I think, are really good covers. And
Hands
F
down.
is probably my favorite. I don't know. I love that color blue.
Yes.
I love what's the red next to the Thriller? Is that like...
Oh, that's a good... I didn't see that. Oh, it's blood. I think it's blood.
Oh, it's blood. All right.
I think when he writes in blood, when he pricks his finger.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I didn't see that, dude.
That's cool.
It's such a simple cover, and I think it's part of a whole series. I'm pretty sure we've gotten ones in that vein for all of the Brad books, and that is one of the best. F might be one of my favorite covers, period.
Yeah, and then so B is the newest line, like
yes.
the most recent, and I think it's pretty cool. It's got like this sort of new age V-shaped flag with, I'm guessing, is that
Notre Dame?
So that obviously we're in Paris, like perfect. Like
pretty sure that's
pick the location that's actually no, it is with the minaret and or the
pre-fire,
obviously. you picked a location that was in the book. Congratulations.
Exactly.
we don't go to Notre Dame, but at least you picked a monument for like probably the most. If you didn't, you could have put the Eiffel Tower there, but
it's in the city. It counts. Yeah. We're judging this cover by the book, and it counts.
And then A is cool because don't they reference? I don't know if they reference this
the seal.
I don't know, but even though it has probably very little to do with the book, it's still not a bad cover. Yeah, I like the lettering on this one the best. I think
A is like that classic, very simple design that you could put on any military, thriller. Any military thriller, and it works. That could be any Vince Flynn book, any Brad Thor book. It's not doing enough to get the top spot from me to knock off B or F, but
no,
it's a solid,
F and B are better.
Stock military thriller cover. Like great, and the colors are cool. I like the blue and gold.
All right, we got to get into the next tier down.
Let's ease our way in here. Yeah, I'm gonna ease our way in here with cover C. Cover C for you OG original Mitch Rap Pod listeners. Cover C is straight up cover C. It's got the power lines. It's got the traffic signals. It's got a dude walking in the middle of nowhere, and it's got god awful color scheme. So cover C is doing what cover C does best. Can't think of anything it has to do with except for outside the mosque when Musa comes up with the taxi, but that's clearly not a cab. I don't see a mosque, and the man is just kind of walking. Scott nearly died when Musa rolled in with that cab and hit Dodd. Scott was ready to die. This guy is just chilling.
That doesn't look like a Parisian street. That looks like, I don't know, some highway in LA or something, I don't know.
Right. Honestly, cover C makes zero sense to me. It's god awful. And surprisingly, it's not the worst cover here.
Yeah. All right. So explain to me what D is.
I cannot explain to you what it is, but it seems to have something to do with Islam something or other. It just tends to have that kind of pattern to me. The only thing I could think of is one of the gears with the clock or some sort of, like they called it the Bismillah gear or something. I don't know. It's a kind of cool design if I could figure out what it was, but
Yeah, so like obviously it's supposed to elicit this like, all right, some sort of puzzle piece, and have some sort of relationship to that. That's what I even though I can't clearly, I can't, some sort of cryptograph, would have been cool if maybe that was a wheel cipher, or like an actual puzzle box. Like, but all right, I'll give it that. It's not the best cover. It's definitely below all the rest, but it's not egregious.
That's like C for effort, like. You gave it a shot. Everybody gets a ribbon, except you don't get a nice ribbon.
Right. All right. Before we get to the worst cover, probably the most provocative cover I think I've ever seen. Let's go to cover E, where we have this like. At first, I thought it was a fire, but it's just like dark clouds with like a sniper in the sky. And then, is that London?
It looks like London to me on first guess, which. Would make
that
zero
looks like
sense.
The eye. It looks like the eye of London.
You see the London eye in the background. I don't get it. If that's the case, with some sniper dude up top, like what the hell are you pointing at? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, those are the buildings next to the London Eye.
Right, so, exactly. Doesn't make any sense.
We weren't in London at all, right?
Nope. And we have a little bit of a face, which you know how I feel about my face problem, so. Yeah. And yet again, surprisingly, it's not the worst cover here.
All right, we got to get to the elephant in the room then. This cover G. OMG.
Tracy Hastings, there she is.
Tracy. Does she have the glassy eye? Like, isn't Tracy supposed to be blonde? What the fuck is this cover?
Dude.
Sorry. Like,
I almost didn't believe it. When I make these covers,
what is this? Italian? Is that Italian?
So it's Italian. When I make these covers, I go through Goodreads, and when you open a book, there's a button to see all editions. And some of them have like 20, 30, 40 editions. Not because there's that many different covers, but it's like repeated, right? Like the same cover pops up 10, 12 times because it was an audiobook. It was
Right.
on CD. It was book on tape. It was Kindle, and then it's Nook, and then it's hardcover, then it's softcover, and then it's re-released 5 years later. So there's like on some of these like 20, 30 different covers you scroll through, and I picked the 4 or 5 that have various designs. Well, the very bottom of the list, buried on the 3rd page, the absolute last one, this chick pops up. And I am just thinking in my mind,
this can't be real. This can't be real.
What the fuck is going on? And then, so first thing in my mind, I go, it's just an error, right? Someone posted this here. It's got the wrong name. And knowing Italian, I go, l'ultimo patriota. I'm like, oh no, that literally means the last patriot. Like, oh crap. And then it says Brad Thor. I'm like, this is legit. Like, no, there was no other movie, book, or anything, l'ultimo patriota, that I could find. I start Googling it. There was one like vintage antique used book website, only website on the internet, that claims they have one copy of this edition. And dude, I was thinking about buying it.
You should buy it. You should buy it.
Here's my problem though. I don't know where this image came from. I don't want to spend like 50, 60 bucks in euros. Wait for this thing to get shipped to me 3 months from now, and then it's just a paperback copy of Cover fucking C. You know, like, and this was just some stock image that they just copy and pasted. But then there's this Segretissimo. I'm like, The Big Secret 1588? What does that mean?
This? What is 1588?
I have no idea, dude. I couldn't.
Is that a publishing house?
I'm going to send you the link. Let me search L'ultimo patriota. You know who else speaks Italian? Mitch Rapp.
Scott knows French.
Scott knows French. All right, here it is.
Mitch Rapp knows French, too.
I'm going to send you this link, dude. It's literally a random website. They have this picture. Okay, and dude, even the description in Italian is the book jacket summary. So somehow this Mondadori company believes they have a copy of this. Like, I don't know what to buy it.
Let me see how much. So funny. We'll have it unboxing. It'll be so funny if it's a cover C. If it's just the cover C.
I would be so mad, dude. I would be so upset.
Anyways, you know, I guess this is a not a visual medium, so you're not seeing this. But anyways, there is a picture of a woman. We didn't even get into it. That's how outrageous it is. Scantily dressed in like black, you know,
leather. Is that leather?
Not very tactical.
Let's just she's holding an assault weapon, so let's just say she's fully strapped and fully loaded, let me tell you.
With like some explosions going off in the background. Oh my god, I am perplexed. I need to get Brad. You should I want to. All right, so normally we put all the covers when we put the little thumbnail for our pod. Mike, you got to put only this cover as the thumbnail. And then I'm going to tag Brad on it, and I want to ask him, what did you know about this cover?
Okay, so here's the thing. I found the website. It seems like some sort of international like Goodreads type of thing, and it says 10 people have this edition in their library. So I think that's just like a digital library or something. But it says 1 is willing to exchange it because they do like a book exchange. You click on that one, and it's a guy named Valer living in Sesto San Giovanni, Italy. He's reviewed 388 books, and he says he's willing to exchange this copy, according to this random website. And I click his name. I can message him. Do I make an account on this website and message this dude?
Please message him and just ask him, can you take a picture of your copy?
Oh, my God.
Anyway, we got to give our scores on these. We got to give our scores.
Folks, if I get my hands on a copy of this book, you're gonna.
I think it's got to be a 5. I think it's got to be a 5.
You know what? Fuck it.
For sheer
this shit,
for sheer brazenness, I got to give it a 5.
I'm going
just
5.
for the laughs that I've gotten in this pod.
For the entertainment factor, bro. Although I'm legit giving a 5 to Cover F. Cover F is just absolutely banging. So 5 for a great number of reasons.
And once I realized that was a little blood stain, like, that makes Cover F even better. So
Oh, dude, that little bloodstain was a great find. And cover B, for that line of these new release paperbacks, this cover B, Last Patriot, is pretty good. But most of the new covers we've seen in this line that Brad's been giving away on his socials, he's giving away copies as they come out. Hot take, they haven't looked great, but this one's pretty good.
One's egregious when we get to it.
Yeah, there's a couple rough ones in there. All right, so what is the total score here? You rounded out with a 40.5. I just am a little bit lower at a 39.5. I think that fairly represents how you and I felt about this book. What do you think about those scores?
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. Yeah.
I think looking at the whole host of our scores so far in the series, that's definitely not in the top tier for either of us. It's, low to mid 40s has been where some of the books we've really liked have been. So I think it makes sense this one's hovering definitely above Blowback, which I gave a 26 out of 52. That's like when I write F on the kids' papers in red pen. This one is definitely above
circle
that.
It.
Yeah.
I think this is just off the top of my head, this is above Path and this is above Blowback. And I don't think anything else at the moment. So
it's probably on par with a State of the Union, a little bit worse than a First Commandment kind of realm. I think the scores will roughly reflect that. Yeah. Little less than a First Commandment, I would say.
Takedown's better. And Lions is better. And I think Rising Tiger is better. So
yeah. I think grand scheme of things, this is going to be a middle of the pack type of book.
Middle of the pack.
Maybe sure. Middle, depending on how things go, because I know this series is about to take off soon in a couple of books from now.
It is.
Because of that, I think it's lower middle of the pack. I think it's bottom of the middle of the pack. Because I know what's coming, the good stuff that's coming.
Right.
Dude, we haven't potted in a while, but this has been a blast.
Dude, this is a good pod. 2 hours strong, man. All right.
And let me end the way the book ends, when we want to know what the word that was translated in Thomas Jefferson's understanding of Muhammad's final revelation, that according to the story he uncovered, and that word was salam, peace. Absolutely love that as a finishing touch, that the president wants to know what word Thomas Jefferson got from Muhammad's final revelation, and it was peace. And I think that's a great way to end.
All right, next time you hear from us, we'll be on the Thriller podcast feed doing In the Devil's Hand by Jack Carr. So go read up on that. Again, we have to thank our patrons, our special operator, Sherry F., our special agents, Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, Bridget, Jeff, Mark, and Rod. Please subscribe, rate, and review using your favorite podcasting platform. You can find us at thrillerpod.com, which Mike has made amazing updates to. Go check that out. Or on Twitter and Instagram at Thriller Podcast. And as always,
peace.
Peace.